Hello everyone, I'm Rich Lamont. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to tie a Glen Grant Spey fly. It's a Spey fly that's used quite a bit today still for salmon and steelhead. Pretty productive pattern from what I understand, though I've never fished it myself. So we're going to go ahead and start. The hook I'm using is again a Daiichi 2051 size 3/0. My thread is my Lagarton 150D. Just tie in and go ahead and start a nice thread base. Trying a little bit of a different setup today. I've got a different color background and some different lighting, so let me know if this works. Give me some comments below and let me know if what we're seeing is working for you guys, if you're able to see well enough. Alright, so now typically with salmon flies, we stop our thread and we'll start our tag and our tip down by the barb. But in this instance with Spey flies, we start a little bit more forward on the fly. So we're going to tie in our tinsel, and we'll just take that right back till about we're even with the tip of the hook point. Okay. Okay, now the tinsel that I'm using here is Uni French medium oval tinsel. I'm going to do 8 or 9 good wraps of this. Make sure all your wraps are touching. I'll go ahead and tie that off. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll tie in our tinsel now. Now for the flat tinsel, I'm just using Danville's Mylar size number 10. Nothing special. And then our tinsel is a large, I'm using a large Vivus oval silver tinsel. Now this, you can pull some of the sheathing off of the back, and then that'll give you a little bit of a flatter tie-in. Though it doesn't matter so much on this fly. Well, the back end here, the next step is I'm going to use floss, yellow silk floss. Okay. And then our tail. tail is just a golden pheasant rump feather. So now we're going to take this feather here and just strip back some of these fibers a bit and get just to these tip fibers, which I'm then going to kind of roll up together like so. And then we'll just tie that in as well. And once you're happy with your length and where you've got it sitting on there, go ahead and tie all the way up. You don't have to go terribly far up the hook shank. I'm gonna leave about that much actually and strip away the rest of this. Alright, so now I'm going to wrap my yellow floss. Alright, so we're going to tie in our hackle quick before we put on our floss. Now I'm just using a black schlappen hackle. You can find this at just about anywhere. It's a pretty common material. Just about any fly shop should be able to get you some schlappen hackle. I get mine from feathersmc.com. Usually has some nice big webby stuff that is great for salmon and spey flies. The yellow floss that I'm using is like it's 54 Dean Street floss. I believe this is produced by Hairline. It's pretty decent actually. It lays down nice and has a nice color to it. And even with this black, it shouldn't show the black through too much. Just flattening it out and making sure that each wrap is nice and flat and straight. Just barely touching the wrap before it. And then back again. Tie that off. And the rest of the body is wool. I don't have any black wool. You can actually use just regular knitting yarn or wool that you get from the hobby store. I just don't happen to have any at the moment. So instead I'm going to use black mohair. It's just like a mohair, kid mohair, goat dubbing type hair. I get this also from Feathers MC. Again, wide variety of colors, and great product, and you get quite a bit with each bag. Let's warm up my wax a little bit. And we'll just dub on our mohair. This stuff dubs on very nicely. Just keep your thread good and waxed, and when you dub it, always dub in the same direction. And if you start seeing, like right here, it's not really using the thread as the center line. When you're wrapping it, it may come untwisted, so you'll have to pay attention to it and then kind of dub it as you go. Always dub in the same direction, never untwist and go in the opposite direction. I'll go just a little bit more dubbing. Okay. Do the flat tinsel first. Between 5 to 7 turns. With this one I've got 6, and that's good enough. That'll be enough to, you know, show some of that flash and that tinsel in the body a little bit more. Now the oval tinsel, you can either lay it with the flat or you can lay it separate, and in this case I do like the idea of laying it separately in between the wraps of the flat, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now clip this off a little bit. We can pick this end apart now as well. Also allowing for a thinner tie-in point. Just less bulk by the head. Go ahead and even all that up. Now for our hackle, which the hackle we want to keep that on the back side of that oval tinsel. When fishing these flies, that tinsel kind of acts as a barrier between the teeth of the fish and the hackle. Having that little bit of protection there is kind of important, as anybody who's fished salmon knows. Some suckers do have some teeth. Along with steelhead, trout, any of them, they all have a decent amount of teeth. Okay. Oh, no. And that is what we don't want to see happen. Right at the very end too. That's all right. I think we still got it. Another layer of added protection you could use on fishing flies is you can use a monofilament. Use a very thin piece of monofilament and reverse wrap it through your hackle. That'll be a good way to protect the hackle a little bit better and make sure that it stays down. And this one here, though, this one's going to go into a frame, so that's a little less important. But just a good little tip. Okay, I'm going to tie in our throat, which is some teal I've got here. Pull away the fluff. Now, we only want a couple of turns, maybe 1 or 2 turns. Take that and we'll just double that back as well. And just double that as we wrap it. There we go. We'll just trim away. Clean up the head a little bit. Okay. So now the wings on this are jungle cock. And I've selected these already. I have another video, if you haven't seen that already, on jungle cock selection. Go check that out. You want these to extend about to, again, about the hook point, maybe just past. Give a nice little bit of length on there. All right. And just do a few loose wraps, just till they're in place. Next layer. And then, of course, our third layer. I'm going to remove some of these out of the way first. I'm not really overly worried about anything falling out of place. You can kind of fiddle with things a little bit and make sure they're sitting where you want them before you add head cement or anything to permanently affixed to it. A couple unhappy teal fibers. And then our other. Then you can go ahead and cinch those down nice and tight. Once you've done that, go ahead and clean up the head a bit. This here's just a cauterizer. It helps just remove any stray fibers that happen to be in the way that you couldn't get out of the way. Okay. And we got that. Now the main wing is teal above that. Got this nice large teal pair here. So we'll go ahead and we'll strip away much of what we're not going to use, which would be about this right here. This we're going to use. We'll strip that and we'll set it aside. And then we'll get the corresponding feather with corresponding pieces. Just had a piece of feather wasp up my nose. Interesting. Alright. So now we'll take these. Make sure they're the same length. About the same width. And we're going to take them, grab them by the tip here, and then straighten them out. I'm going to do that with the opposite one as well. This makes it so you can lay them down evenly on the fly. So now I'll lay this one over the back. I want it to be about the length of the body, maybe a little bit shorter than the jungle cock is. And then the same with the other side. Do a loose wrap. Go, then you can kind of see where it's going to be and how it's going to sit. I don't like that. Far side is just a shade too wide, so it's pushing up on the top portion of that wing. Okay, so again we'll just get our jungle cock oriented. So it's sort of out of the way. There we go. Teal I find is one of the trickiest to tame. Wood duck can be a little bit tricky. Bronze mallard is tricky, but teal for me I think is the hardest. There we go, I like that. So we'll cinch down a little farther down here. And we'll go ahead and trim that off. I'm just going to apply a little bit more wax. And the head on this is wool. Now it calls for pig's wool, which I do not have, so again I'm going to use mohair. Use a golden yellow. Don't need too much of it. But we want enough to have a nice thick head on there. There we go. Apply a small coat of varnish to this. just going to use a small little dab of black lacquer. A little bit of lacquer on that wool. Okay. And here is our finished Glen Grant Spey fly. If you enjoyed that video, if it helped you out, give it a thumbs up. Hopefully you guys subscribe to the channel. You know, tell your friends. I'm going to have videos out a couple of times a week. If you really enjoy this style of fly tying, I highly suggest you give it a try. It's a heck of a lot of fun. Not just spey flies, but salmon flies as well. So, until my next video, tight lines, everyone.